Let's just jump directly into it. Joker. Joker. So y'all watch Joker.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's see if I can do the dance. I just learned last week that neither of them can see me, so they have no idea what I'm doing until they see the delay.
Yeah, I just pulled you up on Facebook. So, oh yeah, I see your hat now. Yeah.
So Joaquin, we'll start with Joaquin. What'd you think of Joaquin?
You want to go first, Judah?
Yeah, let's do an order here. Okay, this is regimented. Judah, Joaquin.
I thought he did an amazing job. I thought that was the strongest part of the movie, and by strongest part I mean it was amazing. I thought his portrayal of this guy, his metamorphosis, and seeing into his head. I just like it when I'm not thinking in terms of. I'm not thinking, oh, there's Joaquin again. You know, I'm seeing, what was his name? Arthur. I'm seeing
Arthur Fleck, yeah.
And so in 2 hours, I felt like I got to know Arthur.
Agreed. All right.
Yeah.
Jared.
Yeah, same. That part of it, I don't know. I don't know how much to add to that, or how much I can really add to that, because, yeah, I think that's the one thing. Like, even critics who haven't really liked the film or whatever have, I think, mostly agreed that he did a great job. So, I mean, it's Joaquin Phoenix, you know.
So, how would you rate this on the Joaquin? Like, are y'all Joaquin fanboy stands? Judah?
Wans?
Stands? Do you stan Joaquin, Judah?
No, but it would be a Wan for Joaquin. Queens? No. I think I'm not a fanboy. I like him.
What was your best
Walk the
Line?
Yeah.
That was the best. See, I did not like Walk the Line. I just didn't like it.
I loved it for the same reasons, in the sense that, like, I really thought he was. I got to the end of the movie and had to remind myself that it was Joaquin Phoenix. You know, he played Johnny Cash to a T.
I've heard good things about The Master. Did y'all ever see The Master?
No.
Yeah, that's one I'd actually kind of like to catch up with.
Name 4 of his movies.
We just watched "You Wish You Were Not Wish You Were Here." That's that other one.
Wish You Were Here.
No, that's not what it is. What's that most recent one? It was basically his prep for this role. It's the other Taxi Driver-esque movie. The way he kills people with a hammer, the ball peen hammer.
You watch your profanity.
A ball peen hammer is a thing.
Pin.
Oh, peen. It's peen. I'm serious. Not ball pen. It's P-E-E-N. Ball peen hammer. It's P-E-E-N.
I've always just said ball pin hammer.
Yeah, it's because you're afraid of saying peen. But it's most definitely peen. A ball peen hammer, also known as a machinist's hammer, is a type of peening hammer. Peening, literally, that's a thing, is the process of working a metal surface to improve its material properties, usually by mechanical means. Peen! And when used on a human being, it rearranges their head. And they're so cool. They just look like they're meant to destroy skulls. Anyways, that movie was called... Man, I can't remember the name of that movie. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Jared?
Ball peen murder.
I don't know. I don't think I do.
It's like, it's not Wish You Were Here. It's like I'm not really there. Or
oh, is it I'm Still Here?
No, that was that one where you were never really here. That's what it's called. You were never really
That's kind of funny that he has 2 movies where I'm still here and you were never really here.
I did not. I never fell asleep during movies, but I almost fell asleep through and You Were Never Really Here. So
that's kind of like a some sort of analogy for this, what happens in this movie. I'm still here and you were never really here, because it's sort of, it's sort of him talking about, like, what does he say? Like I wasn't sure if I really existed.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. He
But I
does
do,
actually
and
hang a lantern on that.
yeah, and then like throughout the movie, you as the viewer can't really be sure like
What's real?
what's real and what's not. Yeah, so that I'm still here and you were never really
Really
here. That's a
here,
good.
and
Yeah.
then this movie. A lot of ways. Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. Go ahead. What about you, Jared? Do you think this is his best role?
I want to just
Performance?
like, probably, yeah, probably so. I mean, it's just it's just so much more memorable when someone plays a crazy. Well, I shouldn't say crazy, but I mean, not to downplay mental illness, but I mean, the Joker as a character is crazy, and so when someone plays like a really crazy character, just like with Heath Ledger's Joker, it's just more memorable. Although we'll always have signs. I'll always be partial to him for signs.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Oh,
about
yeah.
that. I
I
forgot.
mean,
there
I
was
was
no
I
signs.
was
I say
thinking the
that
village.
semi-jokingly. What's that? Oh,
I
the
was thinking the village.
The Village. I forgot about The Village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he's been in a lot
I
of
forgot he
stuff.
was in the signs.
I did too. Yeah, so his character actor roles. We're thinking about his main, big tent peg roles. Her, I never saw that. I heard
I never
that was
saw
good.
that.
Yeah, and then of course he was in Gladiator too.
That's
Oh,
right.
Yes.
That's the one
That
I
was
think
where
of
I
typically.
first met him.
You
you
first
know?
met him. Yeah.
Because can you remember a movie with him before that?
I don't know. So when that movie came on the scene, I was like, oh, this is River Phoenix's brother. That's all I really knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It's my favorite it's my favorite performance of his. I think he hits it. He took, this whole film can almost be thought of as a really good adaptation of like 1,000 different things. It's like a synthesis of Taxi Driver, You Were Never Really Here, the different incarnations of Joker over the years,
Yeah.
and there's a few other things that it recalls to mind. I mean, there's even a little bit of Fight Club, I guess, because of his
Oh, yeah, for
imagination. And so like some of those things don't work in it like by themselves. They just feel like a reference, right? But then when you put it all together, the movie, I was kind of honestly bored by until spoilers until the scene where his two co-workers
Friends,
come
yeah,
in.
that's-
Like
yeah.
that's the scene that won me over. I was like, I believe this. Like just how he handled that entire scene, I was like, this is the Joker. Right here.
Well, for me, the biggest problem was, unfortunately, I watched previews for the movie, and I felt robbed, man. The previews robbed me of some pretty important scenes, and kind of gave me
spoiled
too
too
much
much?
of the story.
Yeah.
Gave me way too much of the story where I already knew what was going to happen.
I didn't watch one trailer for this movie. Somehow I escaped watching one trailer. I think when I first saw it, when I first saw that this movie was coming up, it was my Indian friends who were sharing images of it and stuff. And when I was in India from 2011 to 2016, the Heath Ledger Joker was just every time you went to a Comic-Con or anything like that, like he was just he was monumental. Like he had such a sway over everything. So I just thought this was another hype machine, a cash grab. And in a lot of ways it was. It was a real good business move, this movie. But what I felt like when I got to the end of it was that they just managed to tick all the boxes, and the sum of the parts was greater than all the little parts. Like it was an effective capitalist move, but also I got to the end and it felt like it was a piece of art. Like it felt like a work of art. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean it's an art film, in a lot of ways. I don't know. I guess in terms of my overall feel on it, yeah, I mean I liked it. I was a little bit, I guess, could get bored in parts of it, but I kind of knew that going in. I kind of knew what to expect. So, I mean, overall, I liked it. Not I don't have a strong feeling about it. But there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of little parts that I enjoyed and a lot of little things that, with this podcast I was excited to talk about.
Yeah, I think I'd like to get into more of that kind of like debating kind of that stuff, because I think overall, I have to say that it was one of those movies that stuck with me.
Mhm.
You know, like after watching it, I was still thinking, but still had the feeling of it with me for a while. And I like those kind of movies. I like that it had me thinking, it had me disturbed a little bit, you know. So I guess that's quintessential art movie. I have serious qualms with it as a fanboy.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, this is definitely, I mean, this is a monument in terms of it being off the beaten path, not necessarily a fanboy type movie, but more of an Ang Lee the Hulk, like impressionistic version but unlike Ang Lee's the Hulk, it seems to be satisfying more fanboys and also trying to do something a little more ambitious, you know. So it feels like an art movie, an independent movie, but it's making a ton of money and has global acclaim, you know. So, but yeah, what are some of your fanboy qualms?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest problem I had with it is this is a movie about the most famous, probably the most psychotic enemies, you know, of all time, the most well known. And it goes back. We had a really good discussion for it about the Joker one time, and you said something that's always stuck with me: is that like a great villain has to match match the power of the main, you know, the hero. And I mean, there was no Batman in this, which is fine. I like the fact that there's like, it's hard to tell if this was even real. You know, I get that it was kind of a, you know, similar to, you want to know how I got these scars, you know, there's multiple versions. This could have been a fake version, a real version. But at the end of the day, this guy just felt like a mental illness case, and never felt like, it felt like if Batman came through, he'd be a goner. Like I never felt like this guy. I was hoping it would build to the part, or he just didn't have the kind of cleverness and insight that I don't know, that I want from the Joker. I never felt he was a threat. He was a threat in terms of like he could kill somebody anytime, like a crazy person, but I never felt like he would ever rival Batman.
Right. Yeah. I think the reason for that is, though, it is again trying to, if we look at comic books, especially comic book adaptations, it's almost like every adaptation is almost a different face of the diamond. You know, it's like it's just trying to give a different angle on the mythos, right? And so I feel that what we get here is that insane angle. We get to see the how I got these scars in a way that feels earned. So everything is a mess, and it's not so calculated. And I think it does end up working at what it's trying to do, because the moment I watched it with my daughter, and so I asked her what she thought about the moment at the end when he has his moment, and you know, he basically smiles for the first time in character on top of the car with the chanting fans, and what this movie shows is his ability to inspire madness. And so he is more than the sum of his part. You know, he is this movement. Yeah. And I think, you know, in the shows, you just see these thugs always willing to go to bat for Joker. But what this is showing is
why.
It's not that Joker is necessarily going to kill everyone single-handedly. It's that he has the balls to do what nobody else would ever do. You know, shoot someone on live TV. Yeah, so I liked that. I thought that this, because if you look at someone like Whitey Bulger, you know, like a mobster, Yeah, was he a badass? Like, could he kill people? Yeah, but it was something. There was something more to it. He knew the vernacular. He knew the ins and outs, warp and woof. And the Joker is beyond like an organized crime guy. He's like if you took Whitey Bulger and mixed him with my dad. My dad was like a free radical that you never knew what to expect. He had no allegiances, and when you get someone with no allegiances, that whereas my dad was just, I mean, he wasn't trying to overthrow any system. He didn't give a shit about any of that. Like, but if you take like that type of character, mix it with someone who has an ideological bent, which is basically, I mean, it's what Michael Caine says in
Watch the World Burn.
Just watch the world burn. Like, you get somebody like that mixed with Whitey Bulger and this free radical thing, and you get, I think this depiction's pretty good on that score.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I always kind of think of it in terms of like, I think of a lot of movies. The way it makes me feel better about it if I don't like it is I think of a lot of things just in terms of kind of like Marvel's What If comic series, which they're turning into a series for Disney Plus. It's like it's going to be an animated series, but there's so many different, like you said, so many different interpretations. And I mean, even just like another film that's out right now is, the Terminator Dark Fate movie, which, like pretty much every other sequel since T2, is apparently not just terrible. But I mean, you can almost kind of look at them as, kind of choosing how much you want it to be canon, I think. Because I do agree with kind of what Judah says in terms of, in a lot of ways, he doesn't really feel like the Joker. I think in part just from the premise too, is like, that's a backstory that's always for the Joker in a way really is like best untold, but I did like this interpretation of it. And I agree with what you're saying in terms of, it really is kind of like, I think it is great in the sense that it highlights his ability to inspire madness. And I almost feel like it fits in a way more with like, this feels like the Joker that you would get for like the Unbreakable universe.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, this is kind of tapping into the Shyamalan, I guess we'd say, subversion of superhero culture.
Right. Yeah, to where there's truth to it, but for something like that, like Unbreakable or Logan, like with Logan, where they have the comic book, and he talks about like maybe 10% of those stories being true or something like that. It feels like like it fits kind of along those lines, which I like, but we're just not as used to getting those types of stories from the mainstream comic lines like Marvel or DC. Logan was, a different, kind of story. And so I kind of think of it in those terms.
So that's okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I agree with you guys. I think though that could have helped to take it a step further, take it deeper, like deeper into psychosis, deeper into evil. Whereas this just felt like a little too whiny and not dangerous enough.
Well, I think too, there is a capitalist reason for that too. I think it really is to appeal to the incel demographic. You look at so much of the dialectic that's presented to us in the mainstream, and it is just this either or absurdity. Basically, this movie is the reaction, the anti-Ghostbusters 2016, which literally had like an incel as the villain, and just portrayed like such a, I mean, it was just such a ham-fisted portrayal of a incel villain, and that whole movie was marketed to just piss. This whole thing, if we go back, you can go back and look at how I was part of that whole dumb thing when The Dark Knight came out, and there was like 5 detractors in Rotten Tomatoes, and it like that was when the culture started, like in terms of film criticism, started falling apart, because all the audience was like, I mean, like hounding every critic that dared to give The Dark Knight a bad review, and it was like the fanboy incel sort of like reaction to anything that could be construed as critical of Ledger's Joker and the Dark Knight in general. And so what happens is like a lot of times these people in Hollywood, like Brie Larson, I guarantee you that's all just her playing a part, like on stage. Like that, all of it is K-fob, all of it is part of the movie because
Kabuki theater.
yeah, because if Brie Larson get up there and like complain about white privilege while being a white woman, and lecturing men or whatever, oh, the gender pay gap, blah blah blah. That movie made so much money, and this movie as well. So it's like they can both just you can like exploit each. It's demagoguery, pure and simple. Just get everyone pissed off at each other so that we do the marketing for them. So I think a lot of that was to appeal to dudes that feel disenfranchised. Incel as the epithet goes. And like that's nothing new. Like why do we even have that dumb term? Like why like we were all incel. Like were you an incel, Judah, in 1998? Care to?
Is 18 now, definitely not. But
wait, you're a ladies' man.
I've always been somebody who has this. I mean, this is kind of weird to talk about, but I've always been like friends with those guys. Like those have always been my crew.
Okay,
like
yeah.
I've never been. I mean, I was like captain of the basketball team and had.
So you were Chad.
Girlfriend.
You were the Chad. I was the virgin incel.
I was definitely the Chad, but I mean, that's what I do for a living now. Mostly, actually, partly, I guess. Is I work with young men and try to get them out of this, and I've had difficult conversations about them wanting to be violent like that, and it scared me. Like one of my clients wanted to go see this movie with me. I would go see this movie with me, and I can't do it. I can't watch this with him because I don't like what it. I guess I'm a little afraid that it would put ideas,
Gotcha.
I just don't want to be part of glorifying this sort of thing.
Well, and I think the movie kind of threads a needle, and that's why it's like it's almost impenetrable, critic proof, because it is just this sort of like, is it glamorizing it, or is it just showing the evolution of this character, And I feel like all art is all good art is going to do that. It's going to be kind of like a, what do they call it? Like a cone. There's some term for that. Like a
spiral.
It's like, some like Asian proverb where you take out of it what you put into it. Like it's more reflecting of where you are than what the art is. Arguments could be made for almost anything that's ever been written, whether it be Shakespeare or the Book of Judges in the Bible to the Ramayana to the Mahabharata. Like, there's all these things. They're describing characters gone awry very well and making them sympathetic. Is that a sin?
Well, and it's almost kind of like, in a sense, kind of like Breaking Bad, where you could say, well, is Breaking Bad glorifying, the meth industry? Like, well, you look at the end of that series, Walter White has accomplished sort of his goal in the end, and in that his wife and kids are going to get a massive amount of money, and he's destroyed everything else, And so, I kind of feel like, this movie's the same way, where it goes back and forth. Like, there are some things that you could say, well, if you just take those by themselves, that it's glorifying or whatever. But when you look at the picture as a whole,
right?
It's hard to really come away with that take, to me.
Yeah, that's all good, except, and I feel the same way. It's just when it comes down to the practical idea of bringing somebody who has thoughts.
I got you. Yeah, I got you.
Film, it's like,
oh yeah,
I wasn't do it.
Yeah, I'm not.
No, and I'm not saying no. I'm not saying. I'm just bringing up that, like, it's interesting because I have been in the past. I've been somebody who would, be really critical of people. Say, oh, come on, this doesn't glorify it. Like, get off your high horse. But when it comes down to practical issues, now that I'm, it's funny. I work with some people that don't have kids, and they all have these hot takes on kids, and I'm like, yeah, you're 25 years old.
Yeah, you try that.
I remember
You try
that.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember being like that,
Right.
Actually, just being 25, like the other day I was like, oh yeah, you're 25. I remember that. I was such an ass, not that I'm not now, but I feel like it's amazing how age can really, but anyways, yeah. So like just like real practical situations can really, I don't know, can really change my mind about things. But not that this really did. I don't think it glorifies it to the point where like I hate this movie. But it's just certain practical situations come up and like, wow, yeah, I wonder how that fits in. Like, should I be watching this?
Right. Interesting. A couple other things I did like about the movie, though, is it kind of gets into that meta acting within acting. So you got Joaquin performing the role of Arthur Fleck, trying to perform the role of being a comedian or someone who's going to be on a late night talk show, and then evolving into the Joker. And what I think Joaquin does a great job of, and the writers and the director, is showing that transformation from not just Joaquin to Arthur Fleck, but Arthur Fleck to Joker, and who feel like two different people. Like when he's sitting on stage, finally, like it does feel like a culmination. Like we're looking at somebody different. Like he's getting that role division so well, and I always love those scenes in films. It's just that kind of film nerd thing where you get to see acting portrayed well, and it's rare that it is done well. And so I think this movie, does a great job of it. Just our obsession with image, and how that can go wrong on so many levels. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff there that it hits at this sentiment that I think, early on he gets picked on. Like Satya looked over at me and was like, this just seems, why do they always have these bullies pick on like people in these movies? It's like, it just seems kind of forced sometimes. I was like, yeah, but they're supposed to be Gotham. Think about it, a long time ago, everyone's finances are tight. And so I think we can understand, like when in Dark Knight Rises, when Catwoman, Anne Hathaway, says, you've been living at the top, and, she has a basically anarchist or communist sort of mentality. We're going to make you pay, and you're going to have to watch us be rich now or whatever. It's like, it's amazing. That's not that many years ago, but the sentiment didn't seem as apropos as when watching it with this movie. It feels like everyone is under, I don't care if you're on the communist, leftist, or anarchist, rightist, or whatever. Like, everyone feels a lot more pressure cooked now, I feel like. So it feels much more real. Like, the whole thing just feels like, oh, now I kind of understand this Depression era, like, angst and existential dread more than. So the Gotham of Joker, that it makes much more sense. And they make you really hate Thomas Wayne. I mean, you just want to punch that guy in the face.
Yeah, wasn't he the didn't he have a role in or am I thinking of somebody else in the Dark Knight series? Or was
you're thinking of somebody else, but he's very much like him.
He does look familiar to me, but I'm not. Improbable One has a good question for us. Could you guys see this story work if it's not about Joker and just an indie film that has no connection to the Joker? And so this brings up a good question about marketability and just the business of film. A lot of times, we've had this conversation before, Improbable One, to some degree. A lot of times, people like you and me, we tend to get stuck in a desire for originality. And so we don't necessarily see the opportunities to you could say culturally appropriate capital culture. And so the best authors, most successful people in TV, the most successful people in film, find a way to basically culturally appropriate an existing capital marketable thing and make it work. I feel like this is a great example of it. I personally, I mean, there's a lot of hate for the MCU right now, like Scorsese saying like it's not really film. I still love the first Avengers, especially where Joss Whedon basically, say what you want about that guy, but again, I felt like that was a great adaptation. He took this property and he said, basically his job was just to stitch these action set pieces together and make it feel like it worked. So that people don't notice the seams. And he imported a scene he wrote a comic book called Fray, and the climax of that Fray comic book series was those from a totally different universe. It was like set in the Buffy universe, I think. These giant snakes flying through Manhattan. Literally the same scene. He plagiarized his own work and put it into the climax of Avengers. And so if you can take your own ideas and just repackage them, I think that's fine. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as it works. One of the best filmmaking books I've ever read was Making Movies Work. I believe Sidney Lumet wrote it. And he's talking about the magic of making a movie work and how some things seem like they would work on paper, but as soon as it's up on the screen, it all falls apart. So we want to be pure artists, but be real. Mozart got paid for writing his best pieces of music. So did Beethoven. Beethoven was actually a great entrepreneur. I see no problem with making art that sells. And so, yeah, I mean, he basically took this team found a way to make an artful representation of the Joker to reflect angst. And I don't know. I think that's good. What were you going to say, Joe?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was going to compare it to, I think, wasn't Hereditary originally written as, I had this conversation with somebody, I don't remember if it was you. I think Hereditary was originally written without the supernatural element to it.
Oh, interesting.
And then they were, and like no one was really interested in that.
Exactly.
And so they added that in. And so I think, like you said, it helps it sell. But I think too, like this is it's such an uncomfortable topic for people to take head on,
right?
In a lot of ways.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it almost makes it a little bit more digestible for people if you've got a comic book element or a supernatural element or something that helps you, rather than just go straight at it, to just kind of go around a little bit to the side, but still get, kind of the, all the core message of it.
Yeah. And it's not just that it's uncomfortable in the sense because it's about mental illness. It's uncomfortable because it's a trope that it's a kind of a boring trope. Like, we all know this movie, some guy's like down and out and he's struggling with some kind of thing and overcomes it. Having the Joker, knowing that this guy is going to turn into the Joker, like it keeps you glued because you're wondering, like, when is he gonna? What is it? How does this? It pulls you through in a way that if you're just watching some dude,
right,
struggle, it's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Emily Dickinson said, "Tell all the truth, but tell it slant," and I think that is fantastic. So I quote this. I don't know. I always just think in terms of Jurassic Park for whatever reason. I don't know. It's just like embedded in my psyche. But it's when
that's a T-shirt.
Yeah, that's a great quote. Is I always think in terms of Jurassic Park. I'm just like carrying this to its logical, end where just literally everything that Ford thinks about is filtered through the lens of Jurassic Park.
A butterfly could flap its wings in Peking in Central Park, eat rain instead of sunshine. I think I quote that like multiple times an episode. But that's when the attack comes, not from the front, but from the side, from the other two raptors you didn't even know was there. And I think really we as human beings, if we're looking at something straight on, it's almost like we can't see it sometimes. And so if somebody comes up to us and says, "Hey, you're a piece of shit. You did this last week." You're going to be like, "What? I did not. Shut up." But if somebody comes across, so a perfect example in the Jewish scriptures is David commits this heinous act, kills this dude so that his act of infidelity won't be made light of. And then the prophet comes to him and says, hey, there was this dude who has a bunch of sheep, and he saw this other guy who had only one sheep, and he killed the dude and took his sheep. And David's like, oh man, who is this guy? Get him in here right now. I'm going to kill him right now with my own sword. And Samuel says, thou art the man. Thou art the man. When Poe actually adapted that, a great little, man, I love Poe. There's a great little short story called Thou Art the Man. And it's taking that sort of mentality and just doing it in the real, grotesque Poe way, where he gets a guy to confess to his crime using some little shenanigans, but thou art the man is the idea. But so you don't give the punchline until the parable has come through. And so Jesus in the Bible was always telling parables, these things that seem to make no sense at first, and then all of a sudden, it is revealed. So it's like a person has to discover what the secret, the inception, like the inception has to be discovered by the person themselves. And so that's where I think why, if you can use a popular commodity to kind of get it past people's defenses. So that's why music and film and art and painting, poetry, all these things can kind of get past a person's ideological or religious or political or even economic defenses. And so, we tend to take a shit on all this stuff that makes a lot of money, and we get cynical. But there's good stuff even in some of the, like my kids watch, there's a lot of, in the circles I'm on Twitter, like a lot of hate for Pixar right now. I'm like, having kids, man, I'll sit down and watch some of these stuff. And even movies or TV shows that at first I hate, I'm like, kids these days are stupid cartoons. And then I'll watch them like, oh, that actually wasn't bad. So if you can take an existing property and imbue it with meaning or artistic sense, if you can tell it's slant through this little side door, I think that's redeeming. So.
What kind of people you run with that hate Pixar?
It's the post-irony world, man. I can never tell what's true and what's false anymore. Like, I don't know. But some of Pixar is pretty bad. I mean, let's Cars 2, dude. I mean, like post Cars 2, Pixar has definitely gone the more selling out route. I mean, let's be real, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna hate Pixar because of Cars 2.
Well, yeah, I know, but there have been quite a few that haven't been that good recently. Yeah. Frowned Nose said Thomas Wayne guy from Joker was in The Dark Knight Rises. That's the congressman who the Catwoman kidnaps.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Like that was what threw me. That was what threw me about the previews for this movie. Is I was trying to remember like who he played and like, or how that connected. And so I didn't realize until we saw the movie that guy was Thomas Wayne. But that was really kind of like throwing me originally because it was the same actor. He was in Lost. He was Goodwin in Lost. So
Goodwin.
What?
Wait, Goodwin. Who's Goodwin?
Goodwin was the guy who was with the with Ana Lucia's. He was the one of the others who infiltrated Ana Lucia's group, and she ended up like killing him, like impaling him or whatever.
Oh, I totally forgot. He looks like in Lost. He almost looks like an old Aaron Eckhart.
He does, yeah. Like here, this is now.
Wow.
10 years later or more, and so he's put on a little. Actually, they have a line in the movie where like Thomas Wayne, he's like Arthur Fleck's mother says, he's put on a little weight or something, and like he has put on a little weight from what he was in Lost, and I think probably what he was in The Dark Knight Rises too. But yeah, it's the same guy. So that was like confusing me because it's kind of the same, not exactly the same cinematic universe, but sort of.
Huh.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
Uh,
strange. Did you buy him as Wayne?
It's a different interpretation, obviously. I mean, they're kind of stacking the deck there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we've all probably had dealings with certain, with bad business, with CEOs or people in positions of power that are just that, can't see past their own nose, cut off their body to save their face. Uh, so yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, maybe it is ratcheted up a
Well,
bit.
I totally bought him as
I
Wayne,
did.
but from Joker's, like, by the end of the movie, I just realized, like, the whole time I was in the Joker's head. I was in Arthur's head. I don't know about
Yeah.
Joker. I was in Arthur's head.
Yeah.
And I think, like, just the way they used, the girlfriend thing and stuff like that,
Mm.
I just felt like the whole thing was him telling me a story.
Yeah. And see that I think that's even a better way to interpret the film because there are so many times you and me have talked about this before how our creativity actually causes us to stumble so many times where we imagine a better response to our art or and that's why we have a hard time playing a game like League of Legends because we want to reinvent the wheel every time. It's like, oh well, I'm going to go beyond the meta. I'm going to subvert everything. They'll never see this coming. And really, our subversion is like season 1, patch 1 level like subversion, right? But we're going to just keep repeating the same stupid ideas. And I have done that many times where I imagined. Well, I mean, I had the experience just in the last couple of weeks surfing, where I had video. So the GoPro video is real up close. So there are times where it doesn't reveal how bad I was doing, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was a solid turn there. Yeah, that looked pretty good. Well, a guy was on the beach and he took 600 photos. He's an older dude. He uploaded them all to Facebook. So every single move that anybody did for this 2-hour stretch of time was up there preserved for infinity. And I found myself, and I'm like, the one that I thought was actually a turn was literally just me apparently slamming the board to a stop. So it's like not even a turn. It's just a stall. It's basically I just stopped. And so what I thought was actually, a surfing maneuver looked like, it looked like an orangutan having a panic attack while on meth out in the water on a board. The board is buried. So I thought in my mind, it's literally Arthur Fleck standing there, like having this vision of this woman clapping for it. That's the problem with the good in imagination is you can imagine it being better than it is when you actually deliver. And that's why Humphrey Bogart was asked about, like, what does it mean, to be a professional? And he said, to do a good job when you don't care. And you think I was watching Frantic last night, Harrison Ford film from Roman Polanski, directed it back in the 80s, and just seeing Harrison Ford's acting, like, he was a craftsman. Like, that's literally how he got into the business, was being a carpenter on set, and you just see his progression over the years and how he basically became the zeitgeist for acting in the 80s. He became Hollywood's leading man, and he created his own method of doing it, but he was a craftsman of acting. He just did the work. He's just a very serious workman. And I think too often, like with our personality types, we tend to just follow this sort of manic ideal of what creativity looks like, and it ends up being a lot like Joker. It's unhinged and is not open to any sort of criticism. So yeah, you're right. Like, we're seeing this whole movie through his perspective, and there are times when what I saw in my head in a certain scenario, and if I actually get an outward perspective, I'm like, oh, I see why people were making fun of me.
Well, I think the thing I like about this too is, like, it kind of gives, I think people tend to think of things in terms of, like, either this is true or that is true, either or. And one of the things I like about this movie is that I think it kind of leans into the reality of like both things can be true. So, like as an example is where, you get, and again, this is a big spoiler for the movie. You get sort of these takes on, is Thomas Wayne Arthur Fleck's father? So, at first you get the idea that, you just get the mother's version of, yeah, we had this tryst, and he's your father. He didn't want anything to ruin his reputation or whatever. Then you come back and get the perspective that no, she was just crazy. Thomas Wayne tells him no, she was crazy. She adopted you, and then by the end you get somewhere in between where you imagine it from her perspective, where he's gone to all these lengths that to fake the adoption, to get her institutionalized or whatever, and then you see the photo where he's written, Thomas Wayne has written on the back of about how she's pretty or cute or whatever. And so I was curious to see what you guys' interpretation of that was. Where I land is, I think she is crazy, mentally unstable, but I think Thomas Wayne is his father. I think Thomas Wayne is his father, and part of the reason that, because biologically he has to be her kid. The odds of the two of them of with her mental illness adopting a child with a similar mental illness, it's unlikely. So hang on. So
Yeah.
So I think he's her biological kid. But that still doesn't mean that Thomas Wayne is the dad. But when you get the little clue about the writing on the back of the photo, it lends itself to like, I buy that. Like, I buy that he could have had this, tryst with her. And then
so I forgot about the writing on the back of the photo. What did it say?
It was basically Thomas Wayne telling her she was cute or pretty or something like that. And so I just bought that as like, I think it could be, I think it could, it can be both. It can be, she can be crazy, and maybe that rejection by Wayne helped drive her over the edge. But that's my interpretation, is that yeah, she's crazy, but they probably did have a tryst, and he's the father. And even the when he confronts Bruce Wayne at the gate, the guard or the grounds worker, whoever he is, was very like,
that was Alfred.
Oh, was it Alfred? Okay, I didn't get that. Okay, so
Alfred, wow, okay.
Alfred was
I didn't either.
It was very thou doth protest too much for me from Alfred. Like, what? No, there's nothing. There's nothing here. So what did you guys think?
Well, one thing, his mental illness. The reason they give for his mental illness is because of all the abuse. Like, he apparently, like, what I took from it was that he was a normal kid that was adopted, and that she abused or neglected, and was abused by, and it was the neglect and the hitting of the head and all this stuff that caused the mental illness for him. I mean, I don't know, but the problem is, for me, is like, I don't know how. I mean, all of this could be completely unreal.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think that is another strength of the movie, is just the subjective nature of madness, and how it colors not just your actions but also your perception. Mm-hmm. So it is a warning in that sense. The whole tie-in with the dance throughout the film, though, like, I saw this great meme this kid uploaded. It's like how boys rage, and it shows him playing a video game. He has the headset on. He throws it down, and throws his controller down, and runs out of the room, stalks out. And then it's like how men rage, and it shows him bite his tongue, and then the Joker cello starts playing, and he goes to the bathroom. He starts dancing. That's fantastic, man.
That is great. Yeah,
that's actually like a constructive thing to take away from this. It's like, I loved that, because it was like, there is something they're hitting on something there. I think things are coming to a head Like, because I'm a person that I got made fun of our freshman ball. I started trying to like headbang in some rock song, and I like people pushed me out of the mosh pit and were like, "What a dork! Get out of here, idiot!" I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know there were rules in a freaking mosh pit." I'm sorry I break the rules. Like this, we blame the social justice left or politically correct people for, policing speech. But I can't tell you how many times I've seen quote unquote Chads police speech in really dumb ways. Like that make no sense. They're totally hypocritical. It's just like, I don't like you. And so like the Chad takes a shit on this kind of person all the time. And that was one of the sticking points on the Twitter milieu that I'm inhabiting, where it's, you got a lot of the more body focused, like workout kind of jock types, and it's like a return to masculine tradition, and then you got a lot of guys who talk like that, but then are pretty physiognomically like pretty the virgin in the Virgin versus Chad meme, and there's some truth to that whole thing, where there is a side of like that 80s bully thing just being dumb. Like it's actually compensation on the part of the muscular person for not being as smart or not being as unwilling to put up with social norms. Like they end up being actually regressive enforcers of stupid norms. Like, why does it matter? And so what's refreshing about Joker is he's just dancing like he doesn't give a shit. He's not following, and there's something very visceral and feral about it. And so, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. What'd y'all think about the dancing stuff?
Judah?
Well, I mean, like I said, it just was very reminiscent of some of my buddies, like that's how they deal with situations, is through dance, through physical like escapism. And it touched me when I saw it, like, because I saw something I've seen before. And it's interesting when you described it as feral. I saw it as like just real sad. Not sad, like not sad as in poor guy, but sad as in it touched me, and I thought like a happy sad, where I was like, man, because it was familiar,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever danced to work something out or escape. I don't think I ever have.
I don't think I ever have either. And
I think I need to, though.
I do too. I think that this movie and a lot of our culture has been trying to reflect, there's all these like get up and dance sort of things, whether it be in like dance music or, I mean, even in like, I was listening to old Jimmy Eat World. And there's like a whole just get up and dance song basically. But, you think about how much this one area of life has been put under, it's basically hypersexual or dorky, like there's like no in between for actually expressing this. Like I watched a little bit of Swan Lake the other day. I was just curious, Tchaikovsky ballet, and watching the last 10 minutes, like forcing myself to just sit there and watch it. Big fan of Tchaikovsky's music, but forcing myself to sit there and watch it, like it touched me. It took me about 3 or 4 minutes to kind of get into the rhythm of it, and then I'm like, it's expressing this very humbly. It's expressing some like dilemma and emotional angst, through this beautiful art form that is often maligned as gay, by a more quote unquote masculine. But yeah, there's something missing there, and I think the movie definitely touches that little pressure point, and I think that's why it's been so memeable. Like it's an art film that is so slow and so dialogue heavy and so cinema mise en scène, type of movie that is memed like crazy, because I think it's hitting on something that people feel.
Yeah, I didn't really get the dancing part of it. I mean, it's interesting to hear the perspectives from you guys, because I didn't really understand what the dancing was about, or I've never really, I don't think, known anybody who you're talking about, knowing guys who do that or whatever. I haven't really known people or that have at least, talked about that. Um, I guess kind of on another note, kind of related to that was, I thought it was some of the stuff that stuck out to me more was, just stuff like from the very beginning where, his first fantasy sequence is imagining himself at Murray's show, and getting the recognition there. Like at first I was like, is this a memory? Are we going to see a memory where he went to the show and something bad happened and this was where things kind of started to go? Or, is this a time jump to the future or what? So once he called him down on the floor, I'm like, oh, this is a fantasy.
Right.
And so then he gets the line about, of Murray like hugging him and, telling him that he would give up all of that to have a son like
Right.
him, and so that was, with so much stuff, just going back to your parents and him never having, a father figure or whatever. That was, of course, just something that stuck out to me. And, of course, what you see in a lot of people who, I think in a lot of ways, like, JBP, is just sort of like a father figure for people, for guys in
Right.
a lot of ways. So that kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah, and I think it would be easy to dismiss that fantasy as too on the nose, but that's how fantasies are. They're on the nose on purpose. Like I
Right.
think back to like some of these dreams I had of, like, I started trying to play Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto again the last couple weeks, and that was what I dreamed as a kid. Like I was going to be on stage playing that, and now every time I try to pick it back up, I just feel judged by myself. I mean, that's the thing
Yeah.
about these idealistic imaginations.
Yeah.
Let me hit a. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, well, I mean, in a sense, it's on the nose, but at the same time, like if you think about like what he was saying he wanted, or what he was dreaming about versus what he actually saw, like, he was talking about wanting to be a famous stand-up comedian and stuff like that. But in his fantasy sequence, he doesn't get up there and deliver a routine, or he's not up there imagining getting, adulation from the audience. Like it's specifically just this really private kind of thing between him and Murray.
Yeah, it is just more dignity is what he's looking for. He's not looking for
affirmation, and
he's not looking for success. He's looking for dignity.
Yeah.
It's acceptance. Let me hit a. Okay. Let me hit above a couple chats that have kind of flown under. Frown Nose says, I like this change in Joker. Made me wonder if Bruce Wayne in this version will be an asshole Batman, kind of like Batflex in Superman versus Batman. So yeah, we'll see. If they do like parlay this into a whole new series, which
I wish they would, but I don't think they're going to.
So you would be okay with that?
Yeah.
What about you, Jared?
I would be interested to see if, because of the criticism that Judah was talking about, like needing your villain to match your hero, I would be interested to see if they could believably transition him, take that next step to make him like a real villain or a real foil for, Batman, who's supposed to be the most intelligent.
Oh, okay.
Superhero.
Well,
So
that is interesting because they've already decided that Robert Pattinson's going to be the new Batman. Is that in a different universe, or are they thinking
think
about
so.
merging these two?
I don't think they would merge them.
I mean, I don't know. Money talks, man. I mean, this thing's $900 million international now.
True.
Joaquin Phoenix won't do it. Like this is like a special
one-off
project by him. Yeah, he's I mean, I don't know if you know him. I don't know him, but it seems like he's the kind of guy. He's artsy enough that he picks and chooses really carefully, and he picked this one well. He's not going to get into some kind of franchise. He's not a franchise guy.
Well, he doesn't want a franchise, but I could see it being sort of like a Terminator 2 sort of deal for him, because like I read an interview and he said like even as they were shooting it, he was telling Todd Phillips like, all right, what are your ideas for a sequel? But he said I was joking about that sort of, but not really. And so
Right.
it surprised me, and so because I didn't think, I thought like, oh, for sure,
Well,
you're just a one-off,
I-
but you know.
Yeah, I think, we tend to forget too that actors are craftsmen and artists, and you get into a good character and you like it. I mean,
Yeah.
it feels good in that certain skin, and he just fits so well in this character. I mean, both incarnations of him.
Yeah.
I just like, and that was the other thing I was going to say. How this movie basically just it references so much of what came before it unapologetically. So you've got Thomas Wayne, as they pointed out, as Frown Nose pointed out, being the congressman from Dark Knight Rises. But then you've got that wonderful shot of Joaquin as Joker in the cop car with
Yeah,
all the
I was
madness outside.
I
And
was
that
gonna say
in
that, yeah.
any other scenario, I mean, like, it gives me chills seeing that. In any other scenario, you say, oh, this is a ripoff. For some reason, it just felt like perfection. It's just like homage, like, hey, guys, remember this? But it was like, I don't know, it just worked, right? I mean, did that work for y'all?
Yeah, I felt like there were several of those. I can't remember them all now, but that was the one that I was going to bring up, because there were several like that were what I can only think of right now as subtle, overt.
Yeah, subtle, overt. It's like so
yeah.
like wang, wang, wang.
It was like very like recognizable, like you're saying, but
Well,
at the same time, it fit. It wasn't contrived.
Yeah, so it's like hackneyed, but somehow not. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like on Twitter right now, it's like when my buddy Caleb was here, we were trying to parse the millennial, the Zoomer love for irony, but somehow sincerity is like, yeah, sincerity is the new irony, and it's like, yeah, I mean those homages are so sincere that they're like get a pass somehow. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It was great. I thought it worked. I mean, it made, I don't know, it seemed to like hit every.
I'll also say, I saw somebody else point this out, but this was the first time that a Batman, well, it's not a Batman movie, but that any movie gave me a believable excuse for like Thomas and Martha Wayne like just going down a dark alley as rich people.
Oh,
because
yes,
because
yes,
because every time I'm like, they are filthy rich. They would have a car out front. Why are they going down a side alley of a crime infested city?
Dude.
And so this made sense because it's chaos on the street. They just want to like get away from it, get out. Like, probably should have gone back into the building and waited for the car. But still better than every other explanation of them just foolishly walking down, like it's, Little Town, Kansas or something. So, this gave me a believable reason of why they would get off the street and go down a side alley.
And again, just like they had their checklist, but somehow they made all these boxes fit. Like when it was like, I saw it coming like maybe a minute beforehand. I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. Like it actually fit. And so going back to what Improbable One was saying earlier, like stuff can work and still be a work of art. Like that's the thing I want to tell. Some stuff can work and make money and still be a work of art. It's important for us to remember that, because Beethoven's Ninth worked. Although many critics at the time were like, this is just a dance hall dumbass theme. And this melody sucks. It's so, like, only normies like this shit. And we're still talking about Beethoven's Ninth, almost 200 years later. Well, 200 years later. So a couple more from chat. Improbable One said, the scene in the bathroom where Joker does the weird dance after killing people in the train was entirely improvised by Joaquin. In the script, Arthur was to come into the bathroom, hide his gun, wash off his makeup, staring at himself in the mirror and saying, "What have I done?" Phillips said. Wow, that is so much better.
It is, but it makes sense too, like, because I was trying to think, like, I didn't really understand, like, the tie of, like, where does this come from, and so I think it's still great that he kind of improv'd something into that character there, but it didn't really, like, it didn't really click with me of like, I don't really see something else of like where this, originates from. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I got it. I just feel like
he was doing it earlier with a gun. Remember, he was dancing with a gun.
Oh, before the first killing. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I think they already had some of that involved, and so it is showing this evolution from a uptight guy who wants. I mean, he is a performer, right? He's a clown. Like in a sense, he's dancing on the street.
Yeah, that was the only thing is like I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, he's doing this as a, like you said, a dancing on the street. And maybe, yeah. So maybe
but it's all perfunctory. It's all in the service of a capital goal, right? Like he wants to set this. There's part of him that's just wants to be set free. This desire for, it's like your desire to get in better shape. You've kept with that. I think me getting back into surfing and trying boxing. There's like something in us that just feel about the modern world that just makes you feel like a caged animal.
True.
Yeah. I think of that old bullet with butterfly wings from Smashing Pumpkins. Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. I mean, I feel like that persists for this whole century. There's just this feeling like there's a part of me that is not being served, and it's not sexual. Like everyone tries to like reduce it down to that. This is not just an incel. This is a guy who's inhibited like mechanically. Like when and I love that final shot, dude. Come on, the shot where he's on the cop car and behind him is a porno, and it's like out of focus. It's like a billboard for this adult theater, and it's like out of focus, and he's sitting there, and all the incels together just like they're having this expression of feral intensity that's not sexual. I think.
Now, do you think someone else said this, and I immediately latched onto it, like that the movie should have ended when he delivers the line about to the worker at Arkham about how you wouldn't get the joke, and I was like, oh yeah, that it should have ended there rather than the little sequence where he walks out having apparently killed that woman and then like gets kind of chased around in this sort of yakety sax thing.
Well, I think that's part of the Joker, though. No, I like that. Because it's set because, like Judo's saying, like, do you really see this guy as this devious mastermind? And that's starting to get to where he's going to be that devious mastermind, where he is yakety sax. Like he's going to hide behind this sort of like, ha, it's just kidding, kids.
Yeah.
And yeah, online that whole thing is it. I mean, it is the Kappa. Pepe culture where everything's irony and it's like, oh, did I mean it? Hell yeah, I did. Or did I?
Yeah.
Or did I?
I liked it because it helped. It kind of helped foster this idea that the whole thing was just something he made up, like the same. You want to know how I got these scars type thing, where he just told this whole story, made the whole thing up to her, and then killed her. And really, he's like a deadly killer. And he's.
And maybe and his whole thing is just basically to prey on your sentiment. Like, oh, look at this poor victim. Oh, he's a poor victim.
I loved the tension that they created, not only in the end scene or the scene near the end with the talk show with Murray, which I was pretty sure how that was going to go, but in the apartment scene with him and what's the little guy's name? I don't remember his name. But the one who's been nice to him. So the one, so he kills the other guy, and then the other guy's over there in the corner, and so he's basically blocking the way, and he tells him he's not going to kill him. And so I was like, oh, is he or is he not? That
I know that's
no idea.
So
and
tense,
then he like,
dude.
And then he like jumps at him, and then the guy. And then the guy gets to the and then when he gets to the door, and so I wondered, and I saw this in a review too, like that said the same thing of like everybody's wondering the same thing, like did he intentionally latch the door, intending to kill the bigger guy and then force the little guy, thinking he was going to get away to get to the door, only to realize that it was latched, or was that just incidental? And so he comes and unlatches it and gives him a kiss on the head and lets him go.
So beautiful. It's so beautiful.
It was perfect. It was like that to me was what really kind of, just that scene just made it for me and kind of captured the essence of the Joker of like, you never know what's he gonna do.
Me too. Yeah, that was what won it over for me, and also because how much in our modern society, just even those little acts of kindness can be overlooked in day-to-day interactions where people are weaponized against each other, and like literally nobody says anything nice to him the whole movie except for that one little guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, yeah. So when the pressure cooker is on, like, I think it is an important reminder that that you could probably help someone, prevent someone from going Columbine by just the little small acts. I mean, it's a cheesy sounding thing, but the pay it forward thing, little tiny things. I can remember little tiny things that people have done for me that were really not a big deal at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was at Starbucks. I probably mentioned this a while back, and I was scribbling notes on this little tiny, like, I don't know, receipt or something like that. And this guy at Starbucks apparently had just bought, they had like a, buy 3-in-1 notebook pack, and he'd bought one that morning. And he looked over and saw that I was like having a hard time scribbling. So when he left, he came and was like, "Hey man, do you need a notebook? They include 3 of these. I only need 1." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, here, just take it." I was like, "What?" It was like so touching. It was like, it's dumb and small, but like it was so touching. I'm a notebook collector. I misplace notebooks and pens like it's my job. So for this guy to just give me a notebook, it was like manna from heaven,
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah.
Interesting.
The little guy's the real hero of
Yeah.
the movie.
He is by far the most likable character in it.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone is so terrible.
His mom, the line where he's talking about wanting to be a stand-up comedian, and I laughed at the line, like it was just very innocent of like, don't you have to be funny for that?
Well, and it rang so true, because like the whole time he never came across as very funny.
No.
Like, you're looking down at his jokes and you're like, this is pathetic.
Yeah. Well, and so much of what he was doing is like, it's like he doesn't know how to be. It's almost like he doesn't know how to be a person.
Yes.
Because well, and now that I say that out loud, like, it sounds very obvious, because he says he doesn't know if he's real or something like that. But like, it makes sense too, because if like the notes that he was writing down when he went to the comedy club, it's Gary Gulman, who's the stand-up comic who's up there. And he's writing down, but the stuff he's writing down is like slicked back hair. I don't know if you saw that, but he said slicked back hair. And so he's like making these like visual observations of like how to, and like the guy makes a joke about himself, I think about being Jewish or something like that. And so Arthur writes down to make a joke about his mental illness. And then he's got the practice scene in the apartment before he goes on Murray's show, where he like sets up the curtain in the doorway and he goes in and he's like shaking, pretending to shake hands and like practicing over and over how he's going to address Murray. And it's very much like just him, like, as a full grown adult man, not having really any idea of like, just like basic, social interactions, or he's afraid of just kind of being himself. He feels like he's got to copy someone else.
Well, and yeah, I think they really get at, because I feel like this in a lot of areas of life where I'm looking around trying to copy notes on how certain interactions go, and I just don't understand when things don't work. It's like I feel like I'm following all the motions accurately, but I do not get the desired result. And so I think they really get to that, again, what is being characterized as an incel autist's like inability to keep up with culture or society, and being nerdy and awkward and off-putting. And I wrote about this in one of the chapters of my book, that it just seems like we are playing on a game with shifting goalposts and rules that change midstream. Like the rule book just has an audible every minute, and there is like a patch update that no one bothered to tell us about. And and I've seen that at work. Like and I'll be of course I'm the idiot that just says this stuff out loud because I have no filter. And the boss is like, "Oh, well, we've talked about this," and everyone in the room is like, didn't. And I'm the only one that's like, no, we literally didn't.
Right.
And everybody just looks at me like,
Well, you know what? You
you're
know
not
what this
gonna
makes.
win.
You know what this makes me think of is like, is I just picture this person watching this performance in this movie and wondering like why I didn't get the Oscar or I did the same thing, and it's John Travolta for The Fanatic. You know what I mean?
Dude.
And he's like, I did that same thing. I did that better, you know.
All right. Frowned Nose asks, do you think that Joker satirizes older renditions of already known characters? Well, I think there's so many references here to everything that's come before. But it is basically the Joker character distilled through, and maybe like, what would it be like? Distilled and like concentrated through Taxi Driver, you know, like, and someone said Kings of Comedy, which I have never seen. I've never seen that Scorsese film, but it is like this essence that's really powered by these other spelunking into the dark side of the angry white male mind. You know, and there's much is made of the racial connotation of the whiteness, but I think that this is something that a lot of people get across, wherever they're from. They feel this angst of feeling disconnected, maybe outside of the cool kids club, whatever that may be. So it seemed to work, and that's why in India, so they shared on Twitter a video someone took, which I may have mentioned, in India when Joker's when he finally has his get up and he's walking into the elevator and the crowd is erupting. And so you just hear its dude screaming at the top of the lungs. And it made me sentimental for India, because when that moment in Avengers when the Hulk beats the shit out of Loki, it was just so fun. And so, yeah, like but the young Indian male is just resonating with that moment. Like, yeah, here he is. It almost does remind me a little bit like WWE, you know, like that's almost his walk into the ring, baby, you know.
That's a good comparison.
Oh man. All right. Any other thoughts on Joker, gents?
Well, the only thing I was thinking could be, so if they do continue the series, I think I'm a little conflicted, but I think it would be fascinating to see the only step up on Batman that he has is he'll have like about 10 or 20 years on the guy. He's going to be an old man, you know, and he's going to have, you know, years of plotting, planning, and learning the game.
Right.
And then, you know, when Batman makes his foray, he's going to be a young dude. And I think if they can make something of
That's true.
that could really be an interesting dynamic.
That's true. Yeah, because that was something you always said about Darth Vader, that you felt that he needed to have more. There seemed like a gravitas to Darth Vader that was just lost in the prequels, you know, that it was just this. So yeah, we would be able to see that gravitas develop, and I think he would develop like what you're talking about, the more planned, not just the rabid sort of crazed Joker that we see in Dark Knight, but this a much more planned. Or this unhinged, crazy, you know, mental health issue that we see in this one, but we see him kind of marry those worlds with more of a CEO's mindset, because you do get the feeling that he is like especially like animated series and stuff like that, like just nobody's out thinking the Joker, like he's Elon Musk to Peter Thiel's Batman.
But to me, though, one of the great things about like Ledger's Joker was he tried to come across that way, like from his look to the things he would say. He says when Harvey is in the hospital saying it was his plan, you know, he says, "Do I look like a guy with a plan? I'm just a dog chasing
Right.
cars." He wanted to come across like he didn't. But I
Exactly.
think in reality, like he had a great plan. And not only did he have like a great plan, but he was good about being able to improvise within the plan.
Yeah, and he
So,
made it look effortless.
yeah, and
Yeah,
he made it
that's
look like he wanted
best
people, I
performer.
think, to underestimate him and to
Yes,
say like, "Oh, this
definitely.
guy's just crazy and an anarchist." And to us, yeah, he was, but he was able to like somehow combine those two.
There could be an almost supernatural power that he has, though, in the sense that like being on the spectrum, he's on a different spectrum than everybody else. He's a different spectrum than Batman, where he's not confined to, like, I mean, I think that is what makes Joker so brilliant, is that he's not confined to the thinking, conventional thinking
Yeah.
of life. He's on a different plane, and he's mad, he's and it's his madness that gives him just there's no inhibition, that he's able to see things completely different. He's on a almost supernatural plane,
Yeah,
different than everybody else.
Yeah.
And he's something so out of the ordinary, I guess, in a way, or at least to be able to get to that level, like that most people don't understand him. Like one of my favorite lines, and I think that applies to a lot of stuff and a lot of people in real life, is where Bruce Wayne's talking about criminals aren't complicated, you just figure out what he wants. And then Michael Caine's kind of giving him the lesson of the jungle and the bandit stealing the jewels and stuff. Like you just don't understand this guy. This is something that you haven't really encountered before.
Right.
So,
Yeah, Frown Nose, he said, Joker's protege, Robin as the new Joker in the future, and which brings up a couple thoughts to me. Judah, what was your take as a fanboy on the Killing Joke and also Batman Under the Red Hood? Did you ever see Batman Under the Red Hood? Did you like those two interpretations of Joker?
I did. Although I liked him in the sense of I like to have a constant Joker, and then I like to have the alternate versions to imagine, kind of like
Right.
what Jared was saying, the what ifs. What is it called? The
Marvel series.
Yeah.
It's it is What If. Yeah, Marvel's
What if? Yeah, the what if. So I like having what ifs, but it did bother me that I don't know, that it was a different Joker, and the corruption of Robin did bother me, but I didn't like it, and I liked that I didn't like it.
Right. Yeah, I loved Under the Red Hood. Like it was the end when they're having the face off, and Joker says, see, I lose, or see, he wins and everybody loses, or something, like the way the Joker put it, like that this dialectic had been performed, because Batman can't break his rule or whatever, and so Joker serves as the foil, and there's just there's a lot to unpack, I guess, in terms of the ruminations on good and evil in a fun way, and of course Killing Joke is just it's pretty dark.
Yeah, I think that's what I don't like about. I tend to, I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with that kind of stuff, in the sense that I do like to be disturbed, but I don't like that I like it. So, I was hoping that that's what they were gonna go with, with the well, I guess it was Batman versus Superman, where he sees they show the. I thought actually it was with Suicide Squad. I thought that Joker was actually going to be Todd. Was it Todd?
Jason Todd?
No, Jason Todd. Yeah, because he had like a JT tattooed somewhere, and I thought that would have been perfect if they had followed through with that. That was Jason Todd, corrupted by the Joker through torture.
Yeah, I think one of the things the Joker is good about, this depiction in particular, Along with like the Killing Joke, because the Killing Joke, I believe, gave you some backstory. Didn't it have flashbacks? The film version, I think they did an adaptation.
I didn't see the film version.
Man, I can't remember if it was. I think it was, or maybe yeah, I think it was.
It's like he was like a gangster or something.
No, I think he was like a magician or a comic or something like that.
Okay.
Or maybe it was Red Hood. I don't know. I'm getting them mixed up. It's been a long time. But I think JBP's warning, or well, there's a warning. He's talking about Jung and talking about the shadow. And you have to really deal with this delicately. But if you do not know what's on the other side, if you do not know, and this is why these kind of things are good. These are tales as old as time, right? But when we say that you can only view it in a certain form, and making fun of new art forms like comic books or comic book movies, things that are capital successful, it kind of restricts you from having a conversation with the broader culture that is trying to basically mine their shadow and try to figure out why we feel this way. Like, why do we want to engage in violence, or why do we feel so angst-filled and with dread? So I think these things do have a positive role in life. It's by way of contrast.
You know what it also reminds me of a little bit is like it's not the same type of mental instability. And of course this is taken farther, but he reminds me a little bit of Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's another good reference there.
Yeah. Still, I mean, of course, very very toned down, and I mean, a very realistic film, but I think partially because they're both so gaunt.
Yeah.
Just the physical similarities, but yeah.
Yeah. And Gyllenhaal in that film does have this sort of autistic attempt to live out a persona. Like what he thinks is what Renee Zellweger wants, Right. So he's like he is always acting and performing, even though he's basically a cameraman.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. All right. Well, anything else, gents, to wrap it up?
I think that covers it.
Just a quick question: what do you guys think about going back and rewatching Lost? I heard somebody say they were going back and rewatching Lost, and I started salivating.
I can't go back and watch the whole series through. It's just so I've just gotten so I've adapted so much to this sort of like 10 episode seasons for most things. Right. To think, I mean, like each of the first 3 seasons of Lost were like 23, 24 episodes each. And then you get like the 16 episode seasons. I do go back like on YouTube and we'll watch like segments. Or maybe every once in a while I'll go back and watch like a full individual episode, because I still love Lost, and there are still a lot of things that have stuck with me that I like to go back and watch. Or I'll go watch like reviews of people watching it for the first time, like younger people who haven't seen the show. So I still enjoy that. I don't think I could sit down and go through the whole series again. It's hard for me to do that with any series, let alone something that's going to have, gosh, what would that even be, like over 100 episodes?
Yeah, no, I cannot do it. I've just been making faces this whole time. You know my stance on Lost. I can't handle it.
Improbable. The other thing I was thinking is, like, we really do need to get into rewriting finales. Like, wouldn't it be like, shouldn't we?
You get to rewrite. Jared gets to rewrite GOT. I get to rewrite Lost. Maybe that could be our whole angle. Like, we come together and meet in the middle, rewriting each other's, pet. What is our pet defenses? Like, you still have some love for Lost. I still have some love for GOT. What about you, Judah? What is something you still have some love for that the two of us would make fun of? Ghostbusters 2016.
Oh, speaking of, Paul Feig did an interview where they were talking about Todd Phillips complaining about woke culture ruining comedy, and Paul Feig, you can find the video. It's like red carpet where he's like, well, I've never had trouble still being funny with it or something like
Dude, but it's bait. It's total bait. Like, he
True.
knows it's garbage.
True.
Like, it's just, he knows it's going to piss me off and go tweet about it. Like, someone else is going to go watch Ghostbusters again. Got him.
That's probably true.
I mean, these people are smart. Like, we just tend to forget, like, how often they're better actors than us. Like, it's, so I don't know. I think they're playing with
Yeah, I
us.
do like that idea though of just rewrite. Like I did start like rewriting
know.
a season 7 or season 8 of Game of Thrones, and then especially like after their little Austin Film Festival thing. I don't know. Judah put the link up to it, or I put the link up to it, or both of us did. And it's just like, I mean, to me, it's just like you've got to take advantage of that in some ways. Like we're just living in a world where we've got the power to make your own stories, and so if you don't like the ending or the last 2 seasons or something, you can go do your own.
I want to say it was Smosh or the Fine Bros early on in YouTube career. They did a Lost action figure show where it was basically the same thing I later did with Downton Paper Pals, where they just like, hey, they didn't animate or anything. They just had it with their hands. Like, oh, I'm Hurley. I'm going to go drive the VW van now. Like that was that, and it was kind of. I mean, it had a following. Like we could end up doing it like that. Like
I really think Paper Pals would be the best way to do
Paper
it.
Pals for both of them. Okay, that's something. Like rewrite Lost, rewrite Game of Thrones.
I'm trying to think which one I'd want to rewrite. Hated the way. I don't know.
Were you one of the people that didn't like Prometheus? Because me and Jared are like diehard fanboys of Prometheus. Another Lindelof property.
Yeah.
Good call. I liked it when I saw it. It's one of those things where I was really impressed by it when I saw it, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I don't, But after we remember that was our first.
That was our first redaction.
Second one, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Was the
one of those,
fanboy.
and I think I like it more now. I go back and forth. I need to.
Right.
I don't know.
We could just have a whole movie where people just walk up to little different organisms that have been tainted by the black ooze. They're like, "Hi, boy. Hey, would you like a Scooby Dooby snack? Hey." That's the whole episode, and everyone gets demolished in more nefarious ways. Like, where did everyone else go? Well, that one person came out with a tentacle coming out of his left earlobe, but I guess I'll go over here too. Like the whole thing is just hanging a lantern on that thing that annoys people about Prometheus. It's like, oh, something's falling over. Let me run towards it. All right. The Improbable One says, are you guys going to reverse redaction of Watchmen? The
show or the movie?
The show or the movie? I'm guessing he means the show.
The show, I think.
Yeah,
because the show is Lindelof, and I haven't gotten to it yet. It just it's 2 episodes in, right? 3 episodes.
Oh, really? So we're catching my daughter up on Silicon Valley because I love that show. I'm the biggest proponent of that show. I think it's one of the best. Like at points, guys, it's not even a satire. It's a documentary. Like it's just. You think this stuff is stupid until you sit into some of the, I mean, I have been on the very, very, very exterior edge, and some of the stuff I've witnessed in startup, I mean, big time tech culture. It's just, you couldn't write it if you tried. They've talked about how they had to change reality so that it wouldn't seem so stupid. Like, that's just how insane Silicon Valley culture is. I love that show. So we're trying to catch up with that. I might be up for it. What was y'all's take on the movie? Just a quick.
The sum of its parts was greater than the whole.
Okay.
Typical Snyder movie. It was his first Snyder movie, right? Or
no, Dawn of the Dead, I think, was his first. I think.
Okay. Well, I didn't see Dawn of the Dead. So yeah, that set the stage for me hating Snyder.
I guess I'll need to revisit Snyder. Like, I think you really have to take Snyder as what he's trying to do, which is basically he has a visual style. I think he's definitely trying to follow in the George Lucas school of art direction. Like it's trying to say more through mise-en-scène, color, and composition than he is necessarily through plot and character. And so as action set pieces, if you can think of it like a ballet, I think it is much more effective. But you just have to take it on the terms of what it is. And, I was one of those, I don't know, like anti-hipsters. You just, the type like, oh, people like 300, so I'm not going to like it. Oh, the art fags like it, so I'm not going to like it. So, it's this kind of dumb. So I think that there is something to his whole but yeah. And then Probable One says movie and comic book story. Interesting. Oh, okay. Yeah, did y'all read the manga? Did y'all read the graphic novel?
No.
Some of it, yeah. I had a hard time getting into it.
Ah, man,
I'm the kind of guy, well, first of all, that looks forward to movies more than reading.
Right.
Not much for book learning, but I was really excited for the movie, and it was a letdown for me. So
yeah, the only reason I read the graphic novel was because Snyder was doing a contest where you could make a commercial for one of the products that was going to be featured, and he was going to have on the wall of screens that Ozymandias looks at. You were going to be able to have your commercial up there. So he gave you this green screened product placements and actors and stuff, and you were supposed to like fill it out and do your own little, post processing on it. So I bought the graphic novel just to see what the source material. I was hooked. I mean, I never read a graphic novel. I loved it. I thought it was very interesting. I became a little bit of an Alan. I'm a dabbler. I'm a dilettante. So I became a little bit of an Alan Moore fanboy for a little bit. But yeah, the movie just wasn't really my cup of tea, I guess. Frowno says you talking about the ultimate cut of Watchmen. I haven't seen that. Huh.
Maybe we should go watch that.
Maybe it would be great to see you guys reverse redact the different POV of characters of Watchmen. All right, we'll think about that. Really, we're kind of in this weird doldrums night right now with the Surfing Violinist podcast, where I've kind of just drifted off and having more guests, and I'm just trying to figure out. I'm trying to fix this house that we're trying to move into this mobile home. So I have not.
Redaction's on a break too.
Yeah, and so I have not really been planning very much. I've been trying to write for my book, and so we're kind of in this nether realm. In between holding pattern.
We're in the nether regions.
Yeah. So I might consider that. That would be an interesting multi-tiered thing to look into. We'll think about it. Thanks for throwing that out there. All right. Well, until next time, keep it creative, keep it cross-cultural, constructive, and check out Roto Hackers if you're into the American football. Is that coming up next, guys?
It sure is.
All right, I'm going to go get some breakfast for those of you who would like to sit here and watch me fail at League of Legends. I've got my Amumu cap on. I've got my Renekton shirt on. I'm prepared to be demoted from bronze to iron. God willing. We'll see y'all next time.
All right.